Hey everybody, it is Jason and I am back with a tea update. Surprise, surprise! If you've been counting the days, which, I mean, actually why would you do that? Because it's just to do with me. Anyway, point is, I have now been, for 1 month, on testosterone, which is, wow, it's amazing. It's really weird because obviously I made the update video after 1 week and then I've been still thinking about it day to day as a process, so it hasn't felt completely like, oh my god, it's gone so quick, like you get a lot of people saying, like, oh my god, a month has gone by so fast. But in a way it also has, because I've sort of looked back and thought, I mean, look at where I was a month ago before taking tea. I mean, that was incredible. So in a way it has gone fast as well. But then I suppose in any kind of circumstance, if you look back in the past at something, then it always feels like it's fast because you're looking at it instant. But sorry, this is probably a bit too deep for you on a Saturday afternoon, but there you go. By the way, it's still pretty warm. We've had one storm in about 3 months, or one rainfall even in 3 months, sorry. One rainfall in 3 weeks, at least. It's not quite as hot as it has been, but it's still pretty hot. Please bear with me as well during this video because I'm feeling quite sort of sluggish. I had a very, very tiring week with work and extra stuff. But at the same time, I do still feel quite energetic and I want to do this video and some other stuff. So why don't I talk about that bit first, like the whole sort of energy premise and sort of getting onto my second shot and things like that. There were a few things that I was a little bit concerned about leading up to the end of the 28 days of my first shot. One of those was mood swings, and to be honest, I didn't really get any. I did talk in the previous video about how I felt a bit more annoyed at stuff, but actually that was really more to do with our own circumstances and Becky not working and things like that, because she's now got a new job and she's really enjoying it, and since then I haven't really felt the same sort of like annoyance at stuff. I'm still very much the same in that regard, just more confident. I do like the thing of getting stuff done though, like the whole being practical. I am definitely retaining that and I'm liking it because it makes me more motivated to do things that I should be doing or have wanted to do or things like that, so that's really good. And one of the other things I was also worried about was the whole sort of feeling sluggish or tired or whatever. So in terms of, we're sort of talking day 28 before my shot, I didn't have any mood swings per se, but I was tired. I was a little bit cranky in the morning, but then if I am tired in the morning, I am cranky because I'm not a morning person by any means. But apart from that, no mood swings specifically. But oh my god, like day 28, I didn't have my shot, by the way. I was 1 day late. There was a problem with the GP side of things, processing the prescription. I went in and got that bit done because their system's so complicated at my GP. But apparently the person who I spoke to didn't log it correctly or didn't pass on the information in the right way, and basically when I went back there, the other 2 people were there, just started panicking and were like, oh well, you know, if I'd have done it then I would have faxed it straight away and all this stuff, and it's just like, it's okay. But I had to be persistent with them to get a prescription. And then in the end I had to get the tea ordered in because they didn't have it in stock, but then it came the day after. So day 28, work was very difficult because I was just so tired and feeling sluggish. And also the work I had to do that day was actually really hard. And then day 29, if you will, so yesterday, we're talking Friday, today's a Saturday, I still had to do work before taking my shot because basically we had to go and get it from the chemist in the middle of the day because they only open at like 9 or something, so it's not ideal, but there we go. So I'm now taking my shot, and by the way, next sort of minute or so is going to be about needles, so if you don't like needles I'm going to put a caption or something as to where to skip to. But here we go. So I did my first injection as a self-administered one, so not going to the nurse, I did it myself. I've got all my equipment over there in the background, and I did it in my other leg. It mostly went okay. There was a thing that made me panic slightly, which I wasn't expecting, because it didn't happen the last time. But I think what happened was I either nicked a blood vessel or I nicked a vein or something. Because basically when I was pushing it in, after a certain point, it did sort of hurt a bit more than usual. And I was like, okay. But I kept going, and then I pushed the tea in, and oh my god, by the way, the tea this time was so much better to push in. It was so much more liquidy than the last one. But anyway, that all went in fine. Nothing wrong. Excuse me. And then basically as I pulled the needle out, I wasn't as ready as I should have been with the cotton wool, because basically like a squirt of blood came out. So I had to immediately sort of block it and clot it. I thought, oh shit, what have I done? But after the sort of initial bit of blood, and there was like a small amount coming out after that for a couple of minutes, no other problems. I did put a plaster on, but I've checked it today. There is a bit of bruising, and also it hurts more, I think, than last time. But apart from that, there's been no sort of issues after that. So apparently drawing a bit of blood is quite normal. I think there are techniques like sort of pulling the barrel out again a bit before pulling it out. I can't remember the exact terminology for that. But yeah, it's fine. It's all good. It's just a bit painful and it's a bit annoying. But there we go. So on to changes. So what's happened since week 1 to now, and I've got some comparisons for you. So with the photo a day thing, I'm going to save that basically until a year, but I do look at that myself now. What I will show you though, I'm going to show you a voice comparison, and I've also got a couple of body comparisons, so sort of front, back, and then face and side. So in a way you will get to see, you know, some. It won't see it like gradual, but you will get to see me being on T for a bit and on a month, so last Friday. But I'm going to talk about some changes anyway now, the bigger ones in particular, and also anything that sort of changed from like the first week. So a couple of things that I was worried about. I want to talk about those first. Not including mood swings, but more through the physical stuff that I was worried about. The first one I was worried about was appetite, and sort of getting increased appetite, and therefore I would eat more and put on loads of weight, and I absolutely was kind of terrified of that. But actually, that has not happened, which I'm pleased about. My appetite has very much remained the same. I don't know if it's the heat necessarily, but at the minute I'm actually eating less than I have been. And also I'm eating better, like I'm eating more vegetables with my meals as opposed to things like rice, which is lots of carbs. So in terms of that, I think I'm doing quite well at that. I could be doing better in terms of diet, but I think it must be contributing in particular to the appetite. And then on a day like this, we can have like a small piece of chicken with some nice seasoning on and some broccoli, and then that'll do us. And then if I'm hungry, I eat a banana. So there we go. I'm not really seeing any sort of spikes in appetite or anything like that at all. With libido, my sex drive has sort of remained at sort of slightly increased, but I think it was sort of slowly going down a bit towards the end maybe. But also I've just been feeling tired, so I guess when you're tired your libido kind of decreases anyway. But there we go. So it hasn't been like crazy, and some people say that it hits them really hard at one point or another. But no, for me it hasn't. It's just sort of remained. It sort of increased after about a week, and it's just sort of remained in that way. But I think again it's sort of more general comfortableness in the body and stuff like that. So that's really good. Next thing which I want to talk about, which is probably the most obvious at the minute, but oh my god, my voice. My name is Jason, and I have just started testosterone. My name is Jason, and I am 1 month on testosterone. My voice has gone down even further than it had done. As I said, I was going to sort of record my voice every week-ish to make it sort of more, better average, that kind of thing. Basically, as you know, the first week it did drop considerably by, say, a couple of tones on the piano. Then sort of around the 2-3-ish mark, it dropped a bit more and then went back up a little bit, almost. It has been moving around my voice quite a lot, but I have been doing singing lessons, which is cool, and I'm learning new techniques now as a tenor, if you will. So a lot of the techniques I had to learn as a soprano, or a diva, if you want, as I used to be called, the diva. It's different techniques, so I now have to unlearn things and learn new stuff. And in a way, it's interesting because with specific things like, oh, you mustn't push or force out the sound in this range or this tessitura of your voice, you must do it this way. And there are certain things a bit like that, which when I was younger and I was just learning how to sing in general, it felt counterproductive to me. It felt like, no, it feels more natural to do it this way. So I want to do a separate video about my voice and go into real sort of deep stuff and details about that and my experience as a singer. But I definitely think that not just mentally but also physically, in terms of my voice, my body obviously is like a lower voice, and the techniques that I was being taught didn't seem right, because my way physically I am, it felt weird, but obviously mentally as well, it didn't feel right. But it's really interesting, the whole sort of physical of, yeah, but it feels easier to push here, or it feels easier to relax here, or whatever. Whereas no, I had to learn it a different way. Whereas now I can do it the way that felt more natural to me, and it's just like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Also, I think even in the past few days, my voice may have dropped again. The last time I recorded it, I believe, was about a few days ago. So what I'll do, I'll put the screenshot up of it now, just so you can see. According to the app, I'm apparently sounding mostly in between, which is interesting. But I think even just opening my mouth today, my voice might have even dropped a little bit more. Like it feels a bit more, well, I suppose it's got even more depth than it did and things like that. I can still speak up here, I can still do that, but it's getting more difficult, which is interesting. And I think as well, just today, a couple of times, but it might be because I'm thirsty, it was sort of cracking a little bit. But actual cracking hasn't really happened yet. So yeah, it's doing well, my voice is really loving it. But there was one thing that I didn't know about at all, which did happen about week 3. I started getting a cold, almost, and I thought, okay, well, yeah, does that happen? According to various people I've spoken to, yes, it is normal, and also if you're a cis boy and, you know, your voice is breaking, apparently cis boys also, you get colds as well. But interestingly, what I didn't know about was this whole post-nasal drip thing, or the T cold. Also, I didn't think it would happen so early, but then my voice has been dropping, and it has been getting sore throat from time to time. But in terms of this post-nasal drip, it was really, really weird. About week 3, it was sort of on and off, feeling like a little bit run down almost. I'm thinking, well, is this part of the T or what? And then week 4, I got into a full-on cold, basically, like post-nasal drips, sort of stuff, blockages here and there. But now I'm better, but I still feel a little bit like sort of in my ears and things. And the weirdest thing was that on day 28, before I had my shot, my sinuses kept kind of blocking, like really, really tight, sort of alternating. So it's not even like, you know, when you have a cold, you know, sort of blocks here. it was literally up here. It was just like, oh, that feels really weird. But I'm aware, sort of, that apparently your blood vessels sort of get bigger when you go on T, so I'm assuming it's something to do with that. But that was really, really weird, and I just was not expecting that at all. The next main thing I want to talk about is, surprisingly, possible fat redistribution. So if you remember back to when I first started on T, I basically said, well, you know, my hips and my bum and all that area are huge. In my opinion, they are huge. And, you know, I look at some trans men or even cis women who have sort of much smaller, much straighter hips, and I just get really, really jealous. And in terms of fat redistribution, I thought, well, because of the way my body is shaped and because also my pelvis is quite large, it's unlikely that much fat redistribution is going to happen, so I'm just going to accept it and I'm going to have to try and live with it. However, I think some has already happened. Now, this is where it gets a bit sort of convoluted, because it might be more to do with the fact I've lost a bit of weight, or it could be a mixture of both. I think I have lost weight, and again, it will be down to sort of my diet. And what I'll do, I'll put up the body comparison ones in a second to show that. But at the same time, there are certain areas, certain sort of prime areas that differ from a cis man, a cis woman, where the body fat has definitely moved. There's also more indication of that as well, because in my face as well, my face, as you can see, has changed shape a lot already. The fat has definitely moved around. So you'll see more of that in a minute. But what I wanted to sort of talk about now, because I haven't really done any photos of it, is my thighs. So my thighs, they're very hourglassy shape, very sort of like this, as opposed to lovely and straight and whatever. And again, it might just be because I've lost a bit of weight, but at the same time, I don't really weigh myself, by the way, just a little thing. It may sound childish to you, but I don't really like weighing myself. But in terms of clothes, when I've been putting on clothes recently, not only does it feel like there's more room inside my trousers, but they just fit me better. So in terms of that, I do think possibly that a bit of fat has shifted from my thighs. Another indicator of this as well, in terms of fat redistribution, is in sort of my waist area, my stomach area. So I'm going to put up the sort of body comparison ones now. So on the left is me just after starting T. Yeah, I know, pizza moobs, but I had to cover them up with something because society. And then on the right side is me on Friday. On the front, I don't really look much different in that area, as in the waist area. But I do think that I have lost a bit of fat around sort of the side of my stomach, if you will, and it's sort of moved a bit towards the middle. It's most profound in this comparison, though, on the back, where I noticed, holy shit, on my waist area there's a huge pinch all of a sudden. So I've still got like a bit of a muffin top, but then just above that there's a much more concave part of my waist, whereas if you look at the first one, it's more kind of, it's not completely straight, but the curve is far less dramatic. So that's why I think that it's not just losing weight. I think that could be fat redistribution, because like that kind of whole concave thing there, I've seen that in a lot of trans men, where sometimes you do still keep a bit of sort of fat on your hips, but you know, just above that there's this huge sort of concave bit as your chest starts to become more triangular. So if that is fat redistribution and that's happening already, then that's just absolutely amazing. Now we're going to move to my face in more detail. So again, I'm going to put some images up for you. So again, you've got, on the left is me on T a couple of days, and then on the right is me a month ago. Now, obviously the lighting is different, and it's really, really hard to actually get consistency in terms of positioning. Oh my god. However, huge differences. You can see on the front one, huge amounts of changes in my cheeks. I look a lot more square than I used to, in terms of like the bottom of my jaw has squared out a lot. I look more chunky in my face. Also though, in feeling it, you can't really see it in the pictures, but feeling around my sort of jawline, I think the fat has moved. It feels sort of more gaunt around there. Nose has filled out a bit as well, and I think also around my mouth has changed a little bit as well. But interestingly, again, just like the body images, moving to the side images, you can see more profound changes. Now I'm going to lay you into something that I've never really said to anybody, in that pre-T, I always hated how my face looked profile. It just looks so odd and so kind of, I just hated it. And now I can look at my profile a month later and it just looks so much more like it should do. But in terms of like little details, you can see that my nose has filled out, so that was definitely a thing. It's filled out sort of at the top of the cartilage, so you know, just under the bone, and also at the sides it's filled out a bit as well, which is great. Also, you can see that my brow has receded somewhat. It's sort of created a corner, which I suspected in the first place, but you can definitely see it on the profile picture more than anything. I think my hairstyle has helped a lot, in that it's even more sort of up and away from my forehead, which makes it appear more like it's receded. But you can definitely see anyway as a comparison at the side. And again, the cheeks in particular, it just looks so much more right to me. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's like I would look at myself at the front pre-T, and then I'd look at myself at the side pre-T, and I'd think that's not what it should look like at all. It just looks wrong. Whereas it's as if my face now matches my profile now, whereas before they didn't match, which is really weird and obviously wrong, but in terms of how my mind perceives how I look, then that is basically what it is. Okay, so on to a few more things. Let's talk about sort of more body things. So in terms of things like sweating, we're going to go a bit graphic here. So when I said that there was sort of more sweat coming off here and things like that, I was starting to sweat more. To be honest, that it hasn't really increased any more than it has done, and I think that the sweating on here is more to do with if I'm working out on sort of specific machines or what have you, because I haven't really sweated more than I have done. Also, what's interesting is I have not experienced any hot flushes, knock on wood, so that's nice. I haven't really gotten any of that. Quite similar with acne as well. I know that I said that my face had got a bit oilier, which it has done, but again, after the first week it hasn't really increased any more than it did. Maybe it will do in the next week or so, but certainly at the minute, no, it's not. I've got my own sort of scrub thing as well, so I'm going to keep using that, and it's doing fine. My acne, I have had a little tiny bit of acne just around my beer line. Beer line? No, it's down that. Beard line, even. But it's literally sort of absolutely minimal, tiny little pimples that just serve no problem at all, and I can just ignore them. Now on to hair. So when I said that I hadn't really got much more hair, well, basically after that, no, I didn't get fuck tons of hair after that, but basically the first thing that happened was that all the hair that I currently have on my body has gotten darker. So in particular, it's noticeable on my arms. You can't really see because of the glare, but my arms, my arm hair here is definitely darker than it was. It's gotten thicker, it's gotten a bit more prominent, if you will. On my legs, I mean, I think my legs honestly at this point are a work of art, because they're so thick and so thorough on, like, from my knees downwards, and now they're even darker than they were before, which is great. Armpit hair as well is darker, although there's not really been much of an increase in how much I have. And then in other places, like the snail trail, there's been a few extra hairs sort of around it, but apart from that, not really anything else. So that's interesting. So one thing I thought about that was maybe it's because the fact that my T level was already higher anyway than average, pre-T, which meant that the whole sort of initial sprouting of hair had already kind of happened. So now that I'm on T and my levels are going to be higher anyway, it's not more per se, but it's just thicker and darker than it was, and it's definitely remained this sort of coarseness and what have you. And a couple of other things. My scent has now gone to very manly indeed, and also talking down there as well. It was very, very weird experiencing that, like when you go to the loo, you obviously have a scent when you pee, and now it's very different indeed. And also just the general aroma of down there is very, very much smelling of that like a man, which was very weird to begin with, but it's good because it makes me obviously feel less female. Not that I'm female anyway, but you know what I mean. So that was good, but it was so weird to begin with. Yeah. Anyway, and also staying personal, there has been a bit of growth down there. Not much, but there has been some. So that's nice to see. It's so nice. So in a nutshell, there's been lots of really good changes so far. I'm still really, really happy with what's going on at the minute. Obviously there are, you know, some little niggles, like the fact that my leg hurts and sometimes I get headaches, and I think the sluggishness today might be partially to do with that. But even so, I'm just really, really happy with the results, and the thing I'm most pleased about is how well my body has taken it in. That was another big thing that I was so worried about, in that when you sort of go through, if you're going down sort of conventional route, if you will, if you're going down the route of, okay, you see a couple of people, they diagnose you with gender dysphoria, you then go on testosterone, really they're only going with what you're telling them, and obviously what you're telling them is truthful, but at the same time that's all you have. And I was getting sort of thoughts almost like, well, okay, I really, really want to go on testosterone because it will make me appear more male, but at the same time, will my body actually like it? Will it actually react well to it? Or will it just not cope with it very well? In the way that when I went on the estrogen pill once, I had such bad mood swings I had to come off it. But it turns out that my body absolutely loves testosterone, and it's reacted so well. In a lot of ways, it's just been an absolute breeze doing this. Again, some of the symptoms have been a bit near, and like with the sort of post-nasal drip, that wasn't very fun. But it's just my body's just loving it, and the changes are just gradually happening, and it's just like almost like a flower blooming. It's just a really nice sort of relaxed feeling. It's not like, it doesn't feel like anything's being forced in my body or that it's having to fight. And then the battery died. Apologies, but I was getting to the end of my point in that it's like, you know, it's not like nothing seems to be fighting each other. It's more just like it's happening, and my body's like, yeah, this is nice. I'm liking this. It's all really nice, and it's just amazing that my body is loving it so much, and it really validates my decision and everything, and all that sort of thinking and struggling with my identity for years and years and years has finally sort of paid off, in that, you know, the fact that I am trans, I'm a binary trans man, and I very much needed testosterone, and now that I have it, and I'm taking it, it's like my body is proving that fact, which is just, oh, it's amazing. But yes, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go and possibly edit or do something. I'm still feeling a bit sluggish from left. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.